Hello everyone. Welcome to the YouTube Mile Builders Thursday night general hangout. Thursday's hangouts are for the general discussion on mile railroading that we all can set a topic to discuss for the night. Thursday's hangouts are the proud sponsor of the Tuesday night presentations, the YouTube Mile Builders, eMag, and the YouTube Mile Builders live show. I want to say thanks for everybody joining in tonight's show. And here's your host for the night, Johnny Reb of Southeast Rails. Well, hello everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Let's get over here and see who's in the chat here. See, we got Timothy. He's watching the kids. His wife is, out and about, I guess. James. Ron, down under. Railroad Video. How you doing? Cabana Bob, how are you? Yeah, we got Jerry up there in the chat also. Mr. Bill. The Fusion Dude. Here comes Dwight. Ethanville. Well, maybe we'll get a few more people in here on the panel when they realize what time it is. But since we're kind of starting out a little light, I'll go ahead and hey Troy, how you doing? Hope the weather's not too bad for you over there in California. Big Jason. Anyway, as you know, Into Locomotive Shop was canceled this week because of work and all, so we rescheduled that for next week. Ralph took this month off on weathering, so the 27th, next Tuesday, we're going to have a tree show with Phil. He's going to show us how he does his wire trees. And then Wednesday night, the 28th, is going to be Into the Locomotive Shop with Joe, Big Bill. And I think Joe had another decoder install. I'm not exactly sure. I believe it was. I'm not totally sure, but anyway, it'll be a good show. Be interesting. Then, of course, you got the regular Thursday night show, too. Oh yeah, I hope your dad's doing better now, Jason. Yeah, Jason's dad had to go in for some surgery, so he's going to be laid up for a little bit. Oh, another big announcement. I guess y'all know Josh Colin Steele that comes in here. It's a wealth of information around the Pennsylvania railroading area. Today was his birthday, so I want to say happy birthday, Josh.
Happy birthday, Josh.
He was he was wanting to kind of be on the show, but he had to make a choice, and we kind of helped him. Since he was sick a couple of days last week, he had to get caught up on homework, so we told him to go get caught up on his homework. He can join the show next week.
Well, he shares a birthday with my 2-year-old daughter.
Yeah? Well, happy birthday to her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she's been a blessing to me and my wife.
Right now, wait till she turns 16.
She's fairly mild mannered. The Lord knows what we can handle.
Yeah, she turned 16. I hope you got a shotgun.
I got numerous firearms.
Yeah, it might come in a little handy. Well, I've been kind of trying to think of something for got to start this thing off a little bit, and don't know. Andy M that comes in here that's got that Nicholson Bridge. He was in last night. He had a show last weekend, I think it was. He took the bridge too, and he got set up the day before that evening, and he decided to just go back home. It wasn't too far away, and then the next day he's headed back over, and he had car problems, so he didn't make it back, and got all that fixed up and went back on Sunday just in time to break everything down. But he said that people had a lot of good things to say about that big old bridge he's got. He said he thought one or two might have ran train across it, but he's got another show coming this weekend. He's hoping to, it's a lot closer to his house, so he's hoping to get over to that show and actually be there the whole weekend with it, be able to run some trains across that and get some video of it. So that'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, he had a little video of it the first time he set it up, but it was just, he just had a single track across it. So now they can stage some meets running across it. They put the biggest train they had on it. It still wasn't long enough to span the entire bridge. There's like 50 cars and it wouldn't go across the whole bridge.
All right, Andy, what are you working on?
I'm
Tearing something up.
Yeah, I got this module complete, ready to go in. I've got I got the track work. Okay, so the back track is made up. I've got the edge ballast or the cinder put down, and I got flex on it. Got printed circuit ties on the end where that goes, and then the lower piece where the headlight track goes. Got the base ballast on it. That I got all the spots for everything to go. I've already shaped everything leading up to it because I make the road bed up and then wrap it in cellophane and then put it in and then form the material right to it so it's a snug fit when the road bed sits in here. So I got that all done. I'm finishing up the scenery because I'd already stuck some leaf flake on here, but whatever, ground cover. But I'm finishing covering up everywhere where it shapes in. I still need to rock the river the way I did the module that I did recently. I'm really happy with that result of the rocked bottom because you can see through these rivers. So a rocked bottom just works a lot better in my case than the first river sections I had done is a painted bottom. So I'm gonna go back and rock those too with that perlite. You know, sift it down, bust the perlite up into small granules, then sift it out into sizes.
And that's
the smallest stuff in the middle and go out to the bigger stuff.
That's that white stuff that you find in like potting soil.
Yeah, it's super lightweight. I mean, it's rock. It's a mineral, but it's light like styrofoam pellets. So it doesn't have weight to the layout. See, I wanted a bunch of rock along the sides, but the weight of all that rock, my module system, the design for my layout, works largely because everything is really lightweight. I mean, the modules don't weigh, they don't weigh nothing. That's it's a 4 foot by something module, and I just sling that over, pick that up with one hand and carry it to the house. I mean, an 8 foot module, that module there, with sloped mountains on it and the rock in it, everything, ready to go with scenery on it, with trees on it, all that stuff. This module behind me that's 8, it's 14 inches or 12 inches deep. That module is, and I can pick that up with one hand and carry it around. It's 8 foot long, so they don't weigh nothing. They're feather light. But the perlite's lightweight. My concern with using a whole lot of natural rock material like I wanted to was or even using the decomposed granite like I use for ballast, which comes out of leveling sand. Decomposed granite like you use in a garden to plant stones. I use it to make ballast. It would be heavy in quantity. Now I sift it down to real fine, mix grout with it, make ballast out of it. It would be heavy in quantity, but with the very little that's ballast, it doesn't make for very heavy. This track, the reason I did this one with flex is by the time you get to where you can see this piece of track, it's flex. This track that's on this upper edge of this thing is 7 feet away from where you stand. You can't get any closer than 7 feet. So flex is fine. And And I'm still deciding whether I'll lay flex on the top deck that goes on these shelf brackets that I'm working on here, because up above your line of sight, and the scenery, so there's no fascia on that top deck. All the scenery slopes to a point, and the point has a little lip under it where I can hide the lights. So it's track, slope scenery, a little bit of styrofoam, and then it steps up a 1-inch, 1-inch piece of styrofoam, and then goes back straight on the shelf brackets. That 1-inch lip lets me put a light in there to shine against the backdrop, and you can hide the light. But there's no fascia. All the scenery slopes to a point. And along the front edge of this thing, it'll dip in and out as the scenery slopes around. But you're looking up to the train, because this level's at eye level for me. Up there is way up above. I mean, it's as high as I can reach to get up there. But with the track scenery slope down from the train, you can look up at it to run the train and the helper along. And then over in this aisle, there's 4 bridges that are way up here, 80-some inches off the ground, and the bottom of the bridge is down here below eye level. So you're looking up to the bridge, and the bridge is 2 foot tall, and there's 4 of them in the valley. It turns, goes across 2, goes back, turns again, and then there's another one. As soon as you duck under and step up in the room, there's a bridge right there in front of you that's 6 foot long, 2 foot tall. So there's a lot of so I'm still deciding whether I'm going to use flex up there or not. Now all the stuff that's right down here at eye level, I'm definitely hand laying that track, because I can build track that's cosmetically a lot more appealing than flex. I mean, don't get me wrong, you could do some stuff to flex track to make it look quite good. My problem is not flex track. My problem is turnouts. I have not seen a turnout that I love the cosmetics of, all the detail, and they're fascinating. Turnouts have all kinds of things, specialized tie plates and hook tie plates and the little angled supports that go against the stock rails up beside the points, and 3 cross arms between the points, or throw rods between the points, and they're all rods, and metal round rods. And there's gauge rods and gauge plates. There's just so much cool stuff going on a turnout. And on a model turnout, you have rail and tie plates. There's 18 other parts, 18 other different types of parts in quantity that should be in that turnout. They're cool as they can be if you model them correctly. And you can fix up some turnouts. You can add detail parts. Microengineering makes a set of detail parts that will improve a commercial turnout. But that won't get them as far as you can with all the etched metal detail. But if you do that for all your turnouts and then hook flex track to it, the difference in the wood ties and the plastic ties is evident. So I hand lay all of it.
We're going to get back up here to question. Hey Curtis, how you doing? Let's see, Ethanville. What type of trees do we all like? The scenic foam trees or the plastic trees? You buy in the buy in again. Let me finish first, Andy.
That's a good word. I can't help but shake my head though.
I knew that gets you shaking your head. No, people, he's not in an earthquake.
Bobblehead.
But yeah, let's see. Also, Dwight has said that Amazon canceled his Arduino shield. I guess the motor shield he's talking about. Said they're no more available. People still buying them in other places. So look around there, Dwight. You'll find one.
All right.
And yeah, Ari just come in. Sam Cools here. How you doing, Sam? But anyway, yeah, we know what kind of trees Andy likes. So Andy, if you don't mind, we'll let somebody else chime in first. What about you, Jim?
I like the wireframe trees, just because I can readily get scrap wire and have a big old bucket of drywall mud. So it's just what I have laying around.
Sure.
How about you, Ron?
I'm most seafoam trees, super trees. I've used some plastic armatures. I built my own in the background. You know, if you're going to cover them up, pretty much. Modify them pretty heavily with some paint, but mostly if it's going to be very visible at all, I mostly use super trees. For deciduous trees, I make first filter trees for my pine trees.
And it's still a seafoam tree is by itself is entirely adequate. At HO scale, they make good background trees, but the foreground trees, the trunk is not large enough on a seafoam material. Now, I've done a neat trick with seafoam where I took a couple of them that were kind of flat on one side,
Yeah.
got 3 of them together at an angle, pushed the trunks in together and tacked it with CA, and then put a little wood filler on it and scratched it with a wire brush, and then painted that. So you have all the seafoam armature, all super easy. I mean, you can glue that together in a heartbeat. I mean, it's a few-minute project, and you've got a tree that's, you know, it's a little too full for most trees. It's not as transparent as it should be, but you cut some of the material off and make it that way. But that makes a pretty good-sized tree with a pretty fat trunk on it.
Yeah, and that can be an issue even in N-scale. And I have done basically what you just described as well, only usually just with a pair of them that I put together. Because yeah, the trunks, a lot of the material, the trunks are pretty fine for larger trees, even at N-scale. Now, if you're doing a forested area, usually in a forested area, the trunks don't get that big anyway, unless they're on the edge of the forest, you know.
Yeah.
Which I guess that's what you would be seeing, would be the edge of the forest, wouldn't it? But
Yep, that's all you're going to see is the edge there. But Jim, hold those trees back up. Okay, so that's wire. And what'd you say, joint compound?
Yeah, just oh god.
Yeah, Proform, all purpose. Yeah, okay.
do you just put it on with like a stiff brush? Is that what you do, Jim?
Yeah, I just take a brush and just kind of have at it, maybe 1 or 2 coats.
Yeah, I use clay on the wire. I haven't finished the end points because I'm going to use a latex on them because they're too fine. But I used oven-baked clay and carved in it with like an artist shaping knife or whatever. I got some laying here. But, you know, used an art, you know, like a blade and carved bread structure in it. Baked it. But this is, speaking of the trees, this is Phil actually bit this tree up for me, sent it to me as an example to work with, and he's doing a show coming up on trees. So me and Phil are doing a show. Phil's largely doing it, but I'm going to help him participate in that show on different techniques for doing trees, and he's going to show his method for wire, and then I'll do a little more with the sagebrush that I use.
Yeah, Troy said caulking works too.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to use on the end points is latex caulk. And then I'm going to hit it with spray adhesive on the ends, and then static grass it. You know, let the grass stand away from it, then spray the whole, you know, paint the whole thing, spray ball the whole thing, and block it.
Yeah, Ethanville, he uses hot glue for the trunks. That can work too.
Yeah, and actually I've seen that done on super trees. Take a hot glue gun and go down the center of the trunk with the hot glue gun and build, you know, make the trunk of it fatter with the and you can especially do that in scale or even at HO scale if it's a little bit further back because you can dry brush some texture into it. But at HO scale, at least for me, this depends a lot on the height of your layout. I mean, if your layout's down at 32 inches like people used to build layouts, puffball works fine. But as you get up at eye level, puffballs, that illusion just collapses. But if you've got the layout up here at anything close to eye level, 46, 48 inches or higher, like we're building layouts these days, and especially at the HO scale, let alone larger scales, the trunk needs an actual texture. If you need something like clay or the drywall mud that you're working with, and let it harden up a little bit and carve the braid structure in it, or let it harden up, take a wire brush to it. Or like the sagebrush I use, it has bark. You know, you've got to create that bark texture, and you can't just paint that on.
And plus, how well does hot glue take paint?
Spray bomb's okay. I don't know what. I know it wouldn't take anything that the paint needs to absorb. So, it's spray.
You know, I think most guys probably using some kind of acrylic paint. I'm not sure how well it would stick.
If you put a primer on there first, you can probably get it to stick okay.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
Probably get some of that brown primer.
Well, I just spray bomb my trees, and I start with the dark camo, and then I use. But trees are not brown. They're in the real world. They're a lot more gray. But
Right.
Dark color. So anything in the any recesses and spots that don't get covered well, the next coat have the dark color to it. They kind of disappear under the flocking, under the foliage. And then I will overspray with a combination of buff in this same color, that like a sand color in this camo paint, or just a flat gray primer, and I'll mix spraying those, and I get pretty good results. And if they're in the extreme foreground, I'll dry brush the trucks. Another technique that works really good with sagebrush or natural materials like a stick. You know, if you just take a stick and glue some super tree to it, that's a pretty good looking tree too. The stick has a bark, but use a very fine dilute oil paint, just white oil paint, dilute paint, and it'll really dilute, and it'll soak in. The oil will absorb into the sagebrush and change the color. It'll gray up the truck.
Sam Cool has got something here. Yeah, that's okay, Sam. You change the subject, no problem. He said, but in the large buildings that have room for track underneath, would you put the cork road bed underneath the building as well as the track?
Either use cork sheet material. Had some around here. Let's lay it over there. You can get cork, and my favorite, you buy it in a roll, but it's a little thinner. Or you can buy it in these square tiles, foot by foot square tiles that are a 1/4 inch. They're the same thickness as cork road bed. Or you could just use foam core. You know, just a cheap foam core material. And I make my buildings removable. So foam core is a no-brainer for me. Cut the foam core to fit the shape, right up to the track, even cut a slope on it so it'll slide right up against the cork. Put your building on it and take a square stock wood, you know, Hobby Lobby or the hobby shop, get square stock wood and put a little square inside the structure of the structure, so when you set the structure on the foam core, around it.
Oh, here comes Dave from the UK. How you doing?
Hello there. Not too bad.
Ethanville put up here that on the hot glue, just as it dries, use a wire brush to give green texture spray paint, or spray it with green texture spray paint. With enamel paint, it eats into the hot glue sticks very well. Have not had any problems with chipping or peeling.
Well, and one of my favorite techniques that I've seen, not from the internet, in Railroad Line forums, there's a post. And actually, if any of you guys catch Ralph in a normal show, he's the one who shared the link with me. He'll share the link with you. There's a guy who makes wireframe trees, and he mixes sawdust of various textures with glue and packs it into that wire. So you're getting a real texture that looks like especially looks great like the flaky bark of a lot of trees around this area. I think that the glue and that may be my favorite technique for a wireframe. It's just sawdust and glue. Dave, just a bit I want to talk to you, by the way. I'm looking at a product out of Europe that seems to be fairly out of Britain. That seems to be pretty popular with British modelers from DCC Concepts called Power Base. Do you have any experience with that product, or do you know anybody that uses that?
I've not used it myself, but I've heard good things about it.
It looks spectacular. Little metal strip you put under the track between the road bed and the flex track, and you put magnets in all your equipment. Well, you put magnets in the locomotives, and it improves tracking and performance on grades and tractive effort. But I think I would put the magnets. I ordered a base starter set of it to give it a shot, and I'm gonna put the magnets. I think I'm gonna put the magnets in every piece of rolling stock, and so I can put a lot less weight in cars to make it track well.
Yeah, you could do. One person, there's a channel that I know that's described how he put it in, and that's Dave Class 47.
Yeah, I follow him too.
Yeah, so he's done that.
Yeah, I just have a lot of people that, and even on these specialties YouTube channel, they show a video of a little so British steam switcher, basically, running up a grade with a whole bunch of cars on it. But they never really show, like, they kind of show a before and after, but it's not a great example. They don't show the before where it's struggling to pull 20 cars very well, and then show it after where it pulls 60. So I couldn't get a real effect, or I couldn't really wrap my head around exactly how much benefit it was.
I think for British modelers, we tend to have smaller houses.
Sure.
You know, I'm guessing you've got a lot more space than than a standard European modeler. So as a result, we end up with grades that are a bit steeper than they should be.
Yeah.
A lot more less realistic, to say the least. So something like the power base system would be pretty effective, for getting up the hills, because of course in the old days we used to have traction tires on our models.
Yeah, and while I see a lot of British modelers do or European modelers in general do a whole lot with an amazing small space. I mean, even down to these little micro layouts, or build these really nice empires in 10 by 10 rooms. My layout room is not that big. It's only 15 by 15, but staging is not in here. I've got that going somewhere else, and I'm also building a multi-deck layout. But in favor of packing as much railroad in this room as possible, this is a 15 by 15 room that will eventually have somewhere in the neighborhood of 360 feet of linear mainline. So that's packing a lot of railroad in a small space. So steep grades. And I'm modeling something with steep grades, so steep grades are the name of the game, but the models don't perform like the real thing, so...
Yeah. I mean, for me, I've got 15 foot by 9 foot, and in order to get full-length trains, I'm going to go around the room twice.
Sure.
So effectively, it'll go around up a hill, over the top of the other one, over the top of it'll start at a fiddle yard. So 180 degrees up an incline, over the top, through a station, back around again, and then down another incline and back into fiddle yard again.
Absolutely.
All right, bunch of people wondering what Ron's doing. Of course, Sparky told them that Ron is constructing a cure for the flu.
Oh, brother, if I could, I would. I'll tell you for sure. No, I'm working on a mock-up. Can't even fit it all in the camera. Just off of my main yard, and the prototype, there's a structure that at one time has a grain elevator in the end of it, and it was a grain processor. They processed grain into pelleted feed. That has since gone out of business, and now it actually houses an industry that makes diesel exhaust fluid. So they use the elevator dump, they get in, they receive covered hoppers filled with pelleted urea and also tank cars full of ionized water, and ship out boxcar loads of pallets with this diesel exhaust fluid. But it's this great long low building, because it was originally this feed processing building. So that's what I'm working on. It's actually a building that'll be an end scale, be 340 feet long and 24 feet tall at the wall. Of course, it'll have these are the ends, and it sits up against the backdrop, so it's kind of a truncated. You can't even see that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm working on a mock-up, just trying to get it to fit into the space, and then I'm going to scratch build this thing.
Yeah, Michael wanted to know, is that cardboard?
This is just thin cardboard, literally like you get off the back of legal pads. Yep. I save them at work. And it's good stuff for making a mock-up. I need to put a piece of wood in here just to stiffen it a little bit after I kind of get it drawn out. But
So you're doing a scale model first, and then you'll cut plastic.
right, yeah, make a mock-up, make sure it fits in the space right. If I don't want to do any adjusting, you know, I can change the cardboard mock-up, but it hasn't cost me anything. Then when I get it where I like it, I literally can take the mock-up apart and use the cardboard pieces as a template for cutting my actual model pieces.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I do when I plan something of this nature is to basically draw it out on one-to-one scale. Obviously, model scale, not real scale.
Right.
Yeah, I draw it out on wallpaper or something and just lay it where I would like it to go, and it gives a good estimation of what it would be like.
Yeah, I make a footprint. I use paper for the footprint, and sketch out where I want the footprint to be.
Yeah.
But I just have an easier time kind of really visualizing it when I can make kind of a 3D mock-up, and I've done this for a ton of projects. It works great for me.
Yeah, Sparky and Timothy says cereal boxes work good too.
Yeah, cereal boxes will work. Actually, sometimes you can find really thin corrugated cardboard, and that's ideal, but it's hard to find. I don't want the thick stuff like you get out of the box. But every once in a while, spacing material, packing material will have some really super thin corrugated cardboard. That's my ideal stuff, but it's hard to find.
Yeah, Ethan Bill here said mock-ups are the best. That way I make all my mistakes, LOL. Then when I like it, I make it out of plastic. And Michael is asking, Ron, you ever used foam core?
I use foam core for some things. Let's see, I thought I had one right here. If I'm doing a kit bash, I really like to use foam core to mock those up, because literally I can take the pieces of the kit and turn them upside down right on the photocopier and photocopy the actual pieces, and then glue them to foam core, and I could cut them out and cut them up and fit them together how I want to. Foam core works great for that. I could use foam core for this, but foam core is somewhat expensive, and this stuff is free. I don't pay a thing for it. So
yeah. Well, Steve just popped in, so I guess now we got the start of another British invasion. We got Dave in here.
Yeah, I haven't been in for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Had a few computer problems, and not only that, my video camera broke.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the microphone went, so that's fortunately it was about 2.5 weeks short of the warranty running out. So I got in contact with the company in 5 days. It should be arriving today, or well, tomorrow. Tomorrow for you. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that. And then on top of that, my tablet broke, and I use a Panasonic V350. Sorry, 380, which has you can Wi-Fi to a tablet or a phone.
Yeah.
And so when I make my videos, I've got the camera mounted above me, looking down, and then I've got the tablet in front of me, so I'm able to see whether my hands are in frame for when I want to show what I'm working on. So it's very useful in that regard, and you can record and zoom in and out as well. So it makes life much better in that regard.
Oh yeah, yeah. Let's see here, James. Where can I find sheets of plastic? I scratch build most things. You got a hobby shop around you? They carry sheets of plastic. They're not real big sheets, but if you look around the phone book or Google, styrene sheets, stuff like that, you may have a company somewhere that's near you that you could go to and buy the full 4x8 sheets. Like there's one company here, down here in the South that I know a lot of people in the Piedmont division, they'll go in together and buy, I don't know, 15, 20 sheets, 4x8s, and they tell them about what size they want to cut up. They usually have them cut in 2x4s, 2 feet wide, 4 feet, well, 4 feet wide, 2 feet high. Makes it easier carrying in the car. They just go in together and pay for the whole lot. But look it up and do a Google search. I'm sure you'll find someplace nearby so you don't have to ship it, because shipping costs on that's going to be, pretty costly. But if you don't need great big sheets, check with your hobby shops. Michael's, Hobby Lobby. Hobby Town USA is usually good about carrying sheets of styrene in different thicknesses, because you can get that from what, 10 thousandths all the way up to I think it's 100 thousandths thick.
And there's a guy on eBay selling it in 4x8 sheets as well. Shipping's about $40 for 6 sheets. Costs somewhere around $100 for 6 sheets. 6 4x8 sheets. It's 20 thou, which is what I'm going to use for my fascia, and especially most critically important is I'm going to use it for my backdrop. I was going to use rolled metal, step metal, but that styrene is just so doggone easy that I'm either going to use that or I'm going to use the Sintra. Like Miles has built all of his background structures with Sintra and have it put my photo backdrops printed directly in the Sintra. But you buy that styrene for $100, you could buy 6 4x8 sheets of the stuff. That's a lot of structures.
Yeah. I gotta say, 6 4x8 sheets and in scale, I could scratch build a whole subdivision.
Sure.
You build a whole city with that.
Yep.
Sam Cole's asking, what brand of tracker and switches do you guys use? Me personally, I'll use the Atlas Flex Track. As far as my turnouts, I build those using the Fast Track jigs.
I build turnouts.
I use the common standard in the UK, which is Pico. I use Code 75.
Well, I'm glad to know that I'm common and standard somewhere, because I'm using all Pico Track too.
But
and turnouts.
Yeah, Pico's spectacular at end scale. At HO scale, it's not as cosmetically appropriate or accurate for American prototypes. In British, they've done it right, but the American prototype for Pico in HO scale is just not great cosmetic. But mechanically,
it's not.
Work. Their turnouts are microengineering turnouts, and microengineering has number 6 left and right. That's pretty, and their yard ladder system. That's it. So Pico's a great choice because they've got positive pressure to hold the points in place. I think Pico is exceptional for staging yards if you don't fast track something, or fast track like I'm going to. But when it comes to flex track, I just don't think you can beat microengineering flex track. Atlas is fine for staging yards. Microengineering stuff looks spectacular. It holds its forward when you lay it, so you don't have to pin it down, and then it moves a little bit on you. With the glue sets, you don't get these curves in. Get it right, stand it there, make sure it looks right, then balance it.
The only real criticism I got about Pico is the distance between the sleeve, the ties. That it's a little bit too close together, so I cut the webbing and stretched them out a little bit. I made myself a jig for doing that.
Yeah, Pico Flex Track, I mean, it's functionally excellent. Even in in scale, it's still, I mean, it's less than perfect, cosmetically, but like you said, it just functionally is so good. And I'll be honest, I made the switch to Pico kind of by accident on this layout, because I had planned to use Atlas, because I always had. And when I started laying track on this a few years ago was the same time that Atlas had all their issues with the all their factories in China, and for about a year you couldn't get Atlas Flex Track. So I bit the bullet and paid a little bit more for Pico, and I was glad that I did. Now this little switching layout I'm starting on, I'm going to use all microengineering products on it. I don't need a lot of turnouts for it, so I don't need a lot of variety of components. So I'm going to go engineering code 55 all the way on it.
It's the best looking. Microengineering turnouts are the best performing turnouts. Microengineering also coincidentally is the only turnout manufacturer to ever meet the NMRA specification for turnouts. However, the only turnout that they actually met the specification on is the ON30 turnouts. But they are so much closer to spec than anybody else. And unlike Atlas turnouts that have that little stamped aluminum stamped point, that's never going to last. And that little riveted point riveted to it, not only does it look awful, but it won't last. I mean, you're going to get a few years out of them, and they're going to break down from throwing them or from running trades on them or from cleaning it. They tear up real easy. You tell microengineering, get them hard, look good. They just require some work to deal with the electrical issues and to mechanically throw them correctly. You need servos or sort of stall motors or something to control.
Unfortunately for the UK market, we are damned by a decision that was made in the 1960s, possibly late 50s, when what happened was post World War II there was a shift towards the old metal tin plate stuff that was all handmade to injection molded plastics. And Britain at the time had some great ideas with motors, you know, with the Ringfield motors, if you're familiar with those.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they were too big to fit in a HO body shell because they'd gone from O gauge, 7 millimeters to the foot, to HO gauge, which is 3.5 millimeters to the foot. So what happened was in Britain they went to a 1930s gauge 00, which is 4 millimeters to the foot, but it uses HO track. So the trains are 4 millimeters to the foot, but the track is 3.5 millimeters to the foot. So the distance between the rails, the gauge, but basically we're talking about 1/76 scale instead of 1/87th as America and Europe and other countries. So the distance between the wheels, between the rails, is 16.5 millimeters for HO. For 4 millimeters to the foot, there are people that do something called EM, which is 18 mil. It's 18.5. So that's EM gauge. And then there are other people that do something called E4, which is prototype 4 millimeter, and that's 18.83 millimeters. And when you're doing in 0.83 millimeters, you're going into microengineering now. You know, you're talking about flanges that are like, 0.5 millimeter deep.
Yeah, that's what I use too. I do the American equivalent of P4, Proto 4 scales. I do Proto 87, super soft flanges, and all that stuff. Scale.
I mean, I would love to do P4, but I just couldn't afford it. I got about 900 pieces of rolling stock, and if you consider it will cost about maybe £1.50 per axle, and the average thing is going to have about 4. So that's going to be an awful lot of money to pay out, and then I've still got to build all my track. You can get kits, but you still got to build it all, assemble it all. And there are very good programs for doing this. Templot is a good example of it.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, Proto 87 is not cheap. I could not have done Proto 87 if I had had a bunch of stuff. But when I started back in the hobby a few years ago, I was starting from scratch. So I could put the Surgeon Engineering couplers on everything and do everything in Proto 87. It's just a cost that I bear as I buy stuff in the hobby. So
yeah, I mean, I've been collecting stuff for 20 years. Excuse me about the police car going by. So yeah, I've had many years, and like I say, my skill set has gone up since then. So I'm quite sure I've got the ability to do it, and I could build a little exhibition layout maybe. But unfortunately, I don't drive, so I've got no way to transport it. And it's a bit difficult to, you know, to sort of Shanghai a friend who can drive to say, "Hey, Andy, what are you going to be doing next May?"
Yeah.
Because I've got an invite to a show. Are you going to be busy next May? Yeah. So,
Yes.
so I basically got to get. Not only have I got to persuade someone to come and give me a hand for a show for a weekend, but I've also got to, you know, get them to drive as well. So I decided that it wasn't really going to be practical.
Well, you don't have Uber there?
Sorry?
You don't have Uber over there?
Well, yeah, we got taxi drive. You know, we got taxis, of course, but you know, it's a bit of a rigmarole to get there, and
Yeah.
you know.
Now, over here, we have taxis, but now the thing is, it's Uber. What is that, UBER, Andy?
Yeah,
Uber.
Uber. And that's just people using their own vehicles, and they charge less money than a cab does.
Yeah, they're all over the world now. Uber's massive, massive. Of course, there's a bunch of controversy with Uber right now in the last few days, but
There's always controversy. We've had problems in Europe, you know, and in London. To the point they've been told they're not allowed to practice there anymore. They've been banned. But anyway, this is a completely different topic. The problem is that, you know, in the UK, you've got some very, very good quality shows. And, you know, they're all over the country. I mean, right now, for example, this weekend, we've got Ali Pali, Alexandria Palace show, one of the biggest ones in London area, heavily sponsored and everything. And if I was invited to that show, well, that's 200 miles away. You know, by the time I get on a train, you know, I mean, I've got to transport a layout all the way to London. I don't think Uber goes that far from Manchester.
they'll go anywhere you want. It's just you just got to pay.
Yeah,
That'd be tough to get them to, you know, to move the railroad around for you. That's a difficult arrangement. You're building one in your house. If you build a small switching layout, or really in your case, if you've got so much rolling stock, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. I could see it being interesting to build a P4 diorama. You know, a small little micro layout that's P4 and do a single locomotive and a half dozen cars. The difference in freight cars is not that significant. I mean, they're basically the scale. You just need just wheels. In my case, it's you know, I also changed the couplers because KD's. You know, I don't use KD couplers either. And most of the P4 guys, I don't think they're using KDs either. So,
no, I mean, I'm not exactly sure how I would have done it in terms of couplings. Probably the big hand out of the sky with a hook, because remember, we don't have knuckle couplers here, with the exception of a few things. It's all, you know, hook and screw link coupling.
Yeah. Like what we did during the Civil War era too, but those are fascinating, especially with the bumpers. Those are fascinating couplers to model. If I was doing a P4, if you did a small P4 diorama, the hook couplers with the chains is the way to do it. But you're coupling your cars up with tweezers.
Well, I had I'll screen share it so you can see, because I came up with an entire layout design for this, you know, for this layout. And it's based upon a real location. Now, bear in mind that I tweaked the track here. So effectively, you've got an up line and a down line, and then a freight loop. And so if you ignore this piece here where it comes down, it would have gone straight across. So it would have just been a third track, all running parallel. And it's based upon this photo. I just found this photo and went, wow, that's fantastic. Nice little micro layout. Now, I've tweaked the design because let me just go back to the drawing. So the real railway curves the other way. And the reason for going for this shape is I've been to so many shows that all it takes is someone to lean forward. So if you imagine you've got a straight layout, all it takes is one person to lean forward and you can't see anything now because they're in the way. So by having a curved layout, everyone can see everything that's happening and they don't have to lean forward. And if they do, it doesn't really matter too much. But all it was going to be was a couple of traverses with a bridge, you know, on each end. And so this part here and those two lines there is this part here and these two lines there. So bear in mind, remember, the curve is the other way round. So I'm doing it so it would be curving that way, so to speak.
Is that dual gauge track? Well, you still got the picture up. Is that inside line of that curve? Is that dual gauge track?
No, I'll explain that in a moment because that's what makes it interesting. So the third track, so this is the up line, the line that would go to London, and this is just over here was the down line that goes to North Woolwich. This is East London. So and in the middle is this lump of dirt, and then there was a station over there. So it's like a bridge going across. I'll show a map if you like in a moment. But anyway, so the idea was get rid of the lump of dirt, put the other track here. Now, the track is interesting because the other track here is concrete track with flat bottom rail.
Yeah.
This track here is wooden ties with chairs and flat bottom and bullhead rail.
Yep.
And this track is flat bottom rail and chairs.
Wow.
Ties. So every single piece of track is different.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's third rail for electric because it's electric trains, and it's got catch rail as well, so because the speeds are a bit you know, higher than, you know, so it's got all these things going for it in a tiny space.
And it's perfect for P4 modeling. And the guys over there that have the etched rails for the bull bottom rails, or the etched chairs, stainless steel etched chairs that you put on, which is what I do too. I have etched tie plates. It'd be spectacular in a small space. It's a really massive undertaking in on a large layout, but
now I'll show you.
Ideal for a small one too, because you could do that track going back into that chemical plant. You could it's just a three-way turnout there, and then you go back into the chemical plant. You could build all that up and put a beer in the back, run a pipe across the top of the beer, and it would, you know, deep.
Yep. Well, just so you can see where this is. So here's the centre of London. Here, you know, here's your Millennium Dome down here, kind of thing. So there's the centre of the city, and you've got the North London line, and it comes around and goes underneath, and this is where the Olympics Stadium was. Now the system has changed now. They've closed that line and they're redoing it. But so the route went down to North Woolwich over here, and it terminated. Oh gosh, we rebuilt that. Finally, all this has changed. Let me just go back in time a little bit. Nifty, useful tool. So the section I'm looking at is right there. Now this is where that bit of track went there. This was an acids terminal. So those are the two curves there, and that's the other one, and of course this is where it went to the station. The track layout has changed because this is now the Docklands Light Railway. Let's see if the 945 one's there. It shows it a bit. It's a bit fuzzy though. So yeah, but like I say, all the track was different. You know, these tank wagons, you can't get models of them, so they'd have to be, you know, you can get ones that got a similar chassis, so they'd have to be rebuilt. The locos are fine, this brake van's fine. And there wasn't a lot up the line, but there was down towards North Woolwich, there used to be a steel scrap scrap terminal. And so this was the kind of train that would go down there, just open, you know, 2-axle open box wagons, and they just dump scrap steel on it and take it up, you know, to Sheffield, where it be turned into, I don't know, cutlery and things like that. And then the tank wagons, they came from South Wales. So you had a range of locomotives that could run it. The line was good for various things. And it ran 2 trains a day. Sorry, 3 trains a week, rather. The Stratford Market. Sorry, no. Anything but Saturday. So you got the Stratford Market one, which was that train, the chemical tanks, and then the Silvertown for the scrap wagon. So, you know, just interesting stuff. The local trains that used to go down there, they were originally these things. And they transitioned to slightly more modern ones. You can't get models of these though either. These are EPBs, electro-pneumatic brake, 2-coach units. But what was interesting is that they were converted from old trains, and they put new bodies on them. So the chassis were from the 1930s, but the bodies were from the late 50s. So interesting in themselves. There's one at North Woolwich, and the line route was interesting. This is where the Silvertown part was. I think by then it might have been closed. So, like I say, just so much little interest that you can chuck in there. And then a few years later, they changed to a different type, which are these things, little suburban units, 3-coach units. Which served until they closed the line, and they're redoing it. You know, and they'll have a tunnel that will go underneath and join to the south side of the river. So, yeah, all brand new trains and extended and everything. So, you know, they're taking it to the 21st century, but unfortunately, the 20th century had to go. So,
I think they were using underframes from the 30s. I think they got their money's worth out of everything on the line. Yeah, that's a real interesting section of railroad.
Yeah. You know, and like I say, there was opportunity for different coloured engines. So, you know, this one. And I worked on a model list exactly which engines would be on it. I had them timed within a 1-year period or 1.5-year period. So it was all prototypical. You know, it's just good opportunities for running things to keep people scenic. And I was going to put, I mean, you know, I could go to a show with 3 or 4 locos, 20 wagons maximum. Probably wouldn't even need that, you know, 15. And I'd be sorted, you know. Just shunting backwards and forwards. This is the route of the line. So it came down out of Stratford, down into Stratford Market, which was a electrification terminal. But so you can see how it's 3 tracks there, and then it came out here. So you can see how one track was wide. The other tracks were close to the edge, and then there's the terminal there. And the nice thing is that the size of the layout was just nice, because if we look at this, the distance between these 2 parts, your scenic breaks, is, let's chuck it in feet, 561 feet. And, you know, 561 divided by 76.2, which is 4 millimeters gauge. That's 7.5 feet long. That's a nice small layout.
That's perfect.
Yeah. You know, you just chuck in a chucking traversers at each end enough for 6 wagons and a loco. You know.
Sure. Perfect to scale. Yeah, and with it being so bottleable within a certain size, you can bottle everything to foot accuracy as much as possible, which I'm envious of. That's the biggest compromise I make on mine. Scale dimensions on wheels, things like that. I do that as much as I can. But I make a lot of, and I'm modeling a real place, but I sure make a lot of compromises on how curves turn and the selective compression on the line, even though as this will end up being 400, roughly 400, less than 400 running feet of mainline, and I'm only trying to accurately model 15, 18 scale miles. That's still a massive selective compression.
Yeah. Yeah, trying to find photos of that terminal was nigh on impossible. So difficult to find anything. But that's one of the things I do love about modeling the research side of things.
So, Ron, are you going to put windows and doors in so people can get in and out and be able to look outside?
Freight doors right here. Just got them drawn in. And remember, it's a mock-up. So, got four freight doors that you track right along here. Loading shed up here. You got to back through the loading shed to actually get to these doors. On the prototype, these were actually added after the fact when this company bought it. There's actually a grain elevator leg in the building that'll be part of it right in here.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a fair placeholder. We'll take it out and see how it looks on the layout in a little while.
Yeah, I was just messing with you about putting doors and windows in.
Yeah, doors are overrated.
Except when the building is on fire.
Well, you know,
especially if the building is made out of cardboard, I think.
But you get a lot more productivity out of your employees if you get them inside the building with no doors.
Well, what was the final word on the contest there, Ron?
On my contest?
Yeah.
Well, voting is still open for the People's Choice, the public voting. At MidwestModelR.com/DDWC, where you can see pictures of all the finished weathered cars, and you can vote on your 3 favorites. Voting goes through the weekend. I still got 3 people I'm waiting to get judging sheets from. Those are due by this weekend, and then be making award announcements via video on April 3rd. And I will say this: it is for the judged part of the contest. It's a pretty tight race right at the moment. It is pretty close. I'm not going to say much more than that, but it is definitely close.
Alrighty. One of them's talking about everybody's left the panel, but yeah, Andy's out working around on his layout, but yeah, Dave doesn't have a working camera right now, so
no. I haven't installed the camera software.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm having a little problem with muscle cramps, so I just turned the camera off where I can stand up, kind of move around a little bit. Try and get my leg keep from cramping up.
So I got to get up and move around too. My original thought on this whole layout was it's small. I don't know if it's worth the trouble about a layout in a 15 by 15 room. Last layout that I had prior to quitting the hobby some nearly 20 years ago was 28 by 36 foot layout. So the idea of doing a 15 by 15 layout, I was like, I don't know if that's, you can't do much in that space, but it turned into a massive undertaking. So
Yeah.
hats off to these guys who build basement empires, and I dream of building it, but I also wake up in a cold sweat about all the work it takes to build it or maintain it. So,
Because if you build something that big, you've just about got to have a crew.
yeah, you really do. Anything big I'm building, or it's a massive length of time. So this is going to work well when I either build a new house in a few years and sell this one, or build a building out back and grow this layout. I have a fully functional layout given its size, and then all I have to do is set it up as it is, and then build a module, spread them apart, and set the modules in place. I've designed it with, like that break is right in the middle of the, basically in the middle of the yard, or right after the turnouts. So I can add length to the yard. I designed the track plan to cross module joints at key places where expanding the size of the railroad made logical sense. So I can set it up in the new house or in the new building just like it is, and build modules separate, get them to a near complete status like I do here, like I build this module down here. I can build them down at a low level and get them ready to put in service, and break the modules, put it in service. It's Toma. I just didn't have the name Toma a few years ago to call it that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, we done hit the 1 hour mark here, so it's been fun watching Ron do his mock-up. Well, he's made a lot of progress in the show here. I guess it's true what Zane Strange and Things says: no doors, no windows, no distractions in the workplace. The fire marshal will approve. LOL. Plus the fact Zane, Ron's wife locked the door to that room and won't let him out for a while anyway.
No, my two older kids are home from spring break, so I'm hiding in here intentionally.
Yeah. All right, well, with that said, I think we've had a pretty decent show tonight, and people were kind of talking in the chat about the different tracks, and a few talked about turnouts. Let's see, I can't remember who said it, but yeah, I do fast tracks. I make those, so I do like those. They work a whole lot better than anything you buy at the store.
Can't buy a better turnout. The physics, the mechanics of the turnout, you can't. There for no price, no product on the market that is as mechanically reliable and properly gauged. Everything is fast tracks turnout, best turnout. Cosmetically, they require some work, but you can do it. So, and what I build is not that far removed from it. I just put a lot of detail on it.
Alrighty. Well, with that said, we'll transition here and put this one to a close. I want to say thank you to everybody in the live chat for coming in tonight. I want to thank everybody here on the panel tonight. Jim, Andy, Ron, Dave, good to see you back.
Thank you.
I was kind of beginning to wonder glad to hear it's just computer issues. Those can be fixed. Well, say go to YouTubeMallBuilders.com. There you can check the schedules for the Tuesday and the Wednesday shows. Those air at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Thursday show is at 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. We've had a little bit of a schedule change into the locomotive shop. Was moved to next week, next Wednesday, March the 28th. It's going to be the show with Joe and Big Bill. Then also on Tuesday, Ralph needed to take the month off, so I said certainly, and Phil said he'd like to do a show on how he does wire trees. So I said, okay, that's fine, we'll do that. So March the 27th is going to be Phil and Andy doing wire trees, both of them showing what they've done and how they do it. So that's going to be interesting. Also, like I said at the beginning of the show, today was Josh's birthday. That's Steel and Coal that comes in here, the young fella. But let's see, I had something else. Is there anything else, Andy? Am I forgetting something? No?
Probably, but I don't remember what it would be. So.
Yeah, I know. That's the virtues of being bald. I guess I can't keep it in for long. Y'all have a good weekend. We'll see you next Tuesday night for Phil and Andy's tree show. So be good. Bye.
Bye.